Good evening, everyone. My name is Rainer. This is Rainier Books. It's time for another tag video. I haven't done tags in a long while, and I'm way behind the beautiful letter tags that Jim at Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff has created for us here on BookTube. And today I actually want to do the O tag. And I have the text on my phone here. I have some answers to the prompts here on my phone. And Jim was so kind as to sort of mix up a little bit, give us the opportunity to mix our own O tag together out of a lot of prompts that he did. So I did that actually. And the first question is, I can't read my things here, but the first question is if there's an address, because in Beloved by Toni Morrison there is an address. Apparently that's very important. And the question is if there's an address in my reading or in your reading that stands out for me. And I didn't find an address actually that stood out for me. So I read the essays of Rachel Kushner, The Hard Crowd, essays from 2000 to 2020 last week. And Rachel Kushner is making a lot of references to movies. And I want to make a reference to a movie here because I don't know the address actually, but it's important. There's a movie from 1976 which is called The Little Girl in the House at the End of the Lane. And Jodie Foster is playing the lead role in that movie. She's like 13 years old when she did that movie. And the little girl at the end of the lane is Jodie Foster. She's living there alone, like Pippi Longstocking in Sweden, in the house where she lives, without her father. Her father is somewhere in the Caribbean, and we don't want to say what he is there because. And also, Jodie Foster is talking about her father to people who visit the house who are surprised that there's a girl apparently living alone, but she says, no, my dad is also living here, but he is doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this, he's doing that. At the end, this movie gets a little to a horror story, and Jodie becomes like a serial child killer, and she was actually, this character was actually voted as one of the most creepiest child characters in the history of both literature and movies. So that is the address that comes to my mind when I think of addresses. The second question is Once Upon a Time. That's so many fairy tales start with Once Upon a Time. There was. And Jim is asking for a favorite fairy tale here. And my favorite fairy tale, I think, would be, in English it's called Rumpelstiltskin, and in German it's called Rumpelstiltskin. This is one of the fairy tales that the brothers Grimm have collected. They went through different parts of Germany in the beginning of the 19th century, and people told them fairy tales, told them old stories that had a long oral history, and they wrote them down and they edited. They published those fairy tales as Die Hausmärchen der Gebrüder Grimm, and they were really, really violent and creepy. And one of them is Rumpelstiltskin. If you don't know the story of Rumpelstiltskin or Rumpelstiltschen, as it is called in German, it's the story of a little being, a little man maybe, living in the woods. And it's the story of the daughter of a miller who is supposed to be, the king wants, I think there's a king, and the king wants her to make gold out of straw. And that is impossible, right? So, but then this daughter gets help from Rumpelstiltskin, because he says, okay, I need to trade something for that. Give me your ring, and I'll make you gold out of this bunch of straw. And he does it. The next evening, the king says to her, I want to have this huge amount of straw, that you please turn it into gold. And Rumpelstiltskin comes again, and for a bracelet he does this gold. But then she doesn't have anything more to trade in, so she says, if the king ever marries me, you get our first child. And a long time, and Rumpelstiltskin makes a huge amount of gold for this girl, for the miller's daughter. She becomes the queen, she gets pregnant, and after 9 months the baby is born, and Rumpelstiltskin, who was gone all the time, comes back and says, now I want the child. You promised me the child, right? So I take it. And she says, no. And they make another deal. Rumpelstiltskin says to her, because she doesn't know his name. If you ever find out my real name, within the next 3 days, you have 3 days to find out my real name, then you can keep the baby. So she travels, everything is not working. Of course, you can see the deadline is coming closer, 72 hours, 48 hours, 30 hours, 24 hours, 18 hours, 12 hours, 10 hours. And then the last moment she finds somewhere in the woods, she finds people who say, this guy is called Rumpelstiltskin. And then Rumpelstiltskin comes and the queen says first, I think your name is blah, blah, blah. And Rumpelstiltskin laughs and he's very happy, he's confident he's going to win, he's going to get the child. And then, with the last possible chance, the queen says, I know your name is Rumpelstiltskin, your name is Rumpelstiltskin. And this little guy gets so mad, he gets so angry that that the queen is supposed to keep her child, that I think there's several versions of this ending of this fairy tale, that he jumps into, he buries himself a hole into the earth and disappears, or he explodes. And I really love this fairy tale all the way. And this is Rumpelstiltskin by the brothers Grimm. O is for Olga Tokarczuk from Poland and Orhan Pamuk from Turkey. 2 Nobel Prize winners. Have you read those winning authors? And I have to admit, no, I haven't done it. I have one book from Olga Tokarczuk on my e-reader, on my Kindle, and I always wanted to read Orhan Pamuk's novel Snow, about a teacher, I think, traveling from one of the big cities, Istanbul or Ankara, to a little village in the mountains. But I haven't read neither Tokarczuk. Tokarczuk is on my TBR, but my TBR for the rest of the year is settled, more or less, and I want to keep to it as much as possible, so maybe next year. O is for oldest. What is the oldest book in your collection? That should be one of my used books that I have. I don't actually know which one of it would be. I don't collect very old books like other people do. I restarted also my book collection when I moved from Germany to Russia in 1992. That's such a long time ago. I stayed in Russia for 6 months, in Siberia. And then I came to Finland, lived there for 15 months. And without really getting back to Germany, just for a very short period of time, I moved to Sweden. And somehow my books got lost on the way, and I owned lots of German pocket books, which I lost apparently in an accidental thing. So now most of my books are English, 98% I would say, but I don't know what the oldest book of them is. O is for Oxford or Oxford. Have you read a book that plays at one of the most prestigious universities in the world? And the book that came to my mind thinking about this question was Bunny by Mona Awad, which is a novel about a young woman. She wants to be a part of a female circle of girls that call themselves bunnies. And she becomes a member of that circle. And these girls, these young women, are studying literature at, I think, Warren, which is a fictitious Ivy League university in New England. So that would be a campus novel that I have read like 2 years ago. I actually don't like the idea of campus novels so much, but Bunny was an okay reading, and that was the last book that I read that plays at a university. It's pretty bloody in the end. It turns into a horror book. O is for original. Have you created any original text? Of course, Jim, I haven't created so many original tags like you, because you did so many already. You do all the letters of the alphabet with really great prompts. Even now when I reach O, I think I like the prompts a lot, and I know you have already reached U, so there's still a way to go for me. But I have created one original tag at least, and that was the BookTube backstage tag about a year ago. And I want to create another tag. I think I promise myself and I promise you that I will do an original tag over this year, 2021. Until the year is over, there will be another original tag from me. Okay? O is for Obama. Have you read Becoming? by Michelle Obama, or A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Nope. I decided to sort of not read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, when I saw that she was here in Stockholm. She was in Stockholm when that book was sort of promoted. She made like a world tour, and she came to Stockholm. She came to the famous arena called Globen, which takes 14,000 people, and she actually sold the tickets for like $200 for just attending a book presentation. And I thought, okay, I saw Lady Gaga for that much money, and Lady Gaga really made a show with lots of dancers and lots of musicians, and she really did a 2-hour show. I just don't want to pay so much money for a book presentation. And then I thought, I don't want to read that book that is being so commercialized like few others have been. The case with The Promised Land, I started reading it as a buddy read with Paula from Draw Your Book. Paula has actually finished it, and I have to lift my hat for her here, as we say in Sweden. But I haven't finished it yet. It still has to be finished because I think it was too chatty. I think that Barack Obama was pretty much self-obsessed in that book, but he also delivered too many details of American politics that I wasn't so interested in. Who did which campaign with him? Who was his campaign manager there? Who did the artwork of his campaign for the Senate? And so on, and so on, and so on. And I really got bored a little bit with all the names and all these stories that I didn't think was so important. I would have read more about the actual politics, and maybe that comes and I will pick that book up again, and then I will also review it in the future. O is for offensive. Does profanity bother you when you read it? Nope, it doesn't. It does not bother me, but when it's too much, and sometimes it can get too much and hurts the feelings of people unnecessarily, I would just call it too much. I remember when I was a student at university in Aachen, I read German literature, and I worked a lot on German plays. And there's a play called Masse Mensch. I don't know if there's an English translation by Ernst Toller, and this is, we speak about German expressionism here and right now. Masse Mensch is a story of a mass of people who is trying to fight for peace, workers. It's somehow left socialist orientated. And when I saw that play directed in Mönchengladbach, the town where I come from, actually. It was on their schedule for a season. So I went to the theater to see Masse Mensch, and there I saw they introduced the scene into the play, which is not in the original play, where a lot of people are sort of dancing around a man who is nailed to a cross, which could be Jesus, could be someone else, and they are singing weird songs and things like that. And in that moment, a lot of people left the theater protesting, which I didn't do. I didn't protest. I watched the whole show, and I liked it, but I also thought I liked the whole play, I liked the whole show, but I wasn't so sure if this scene was really necessary to sort of provoke the feelings of Christian people in this particular play. O is for Oprah. Have you read or started a book because of a celebrity endorsement? Yes, unfortunately, yes. I have to say, I got lured to read American Dirt last year, which was promoted by just Oprah Winfrey in her book club. She said that this book would tell the Latinx refugee story in an amazingly touching way that would convince all Americans that the caravan, as Trump called it, the caravan to the American border is not consisting only of bad people, but that there are a lot of people who have reason to flee. And Oprah was totally into that book. American Dirt would tell us everything, and it didn't. It didn't. It was such a disappointment. And after having read American Dirt, I wonder about the quality of the judgment, for example, of Oprah Winfrey concerning books and literature, because this was nothing. This was not even. It was a bad representation, full of stereotypes of Latinx people. O is for Oregon, Ohio, and Oklahoma, 3 American states. Have you read any books set in any of these states? Of course I have books set in my favorite state of the United States. The other 49 states may excuse, but of course my state is the Beaver State, because that is the state where I traveled to when I first went to the United States. I came actually to California, to the Golden State, but then I went to our friends in Oregon, and Oregon is like my state and Portland is my city. So yes, I have read books that are playing in Oregon. I read, for example, If Then by Kate Hope Day, which is a novel about survival, about a small town in Oregon, where people, was one guy building a cottage which will stand even when the volcano, which is close to that little town, will erupt. And a very interesting story, The Butterfly Girl by Renee Denfeld, for example, which deals with a disappeared girl in Portland, Oregon. I also read, haven't finished yet actually, Chuck Palahniuk's autobiographical book Fugitives and Refugees, A Walk in Portland, Oregon. I also have read books about the other states. I read at least one book about Ohio, which is called Ohio by Stephen Markley, a book that I really liked, about a certain generation of people, I think born in the 1980s, in the early 1980s, about the opioid crisis in the United States and about the changing country. I also read Oklahoma because actually I read Jacqueline Woodson's novel Red at the Bone, which plays in New York mostly, but there are reminiscences but there are memories. The memories of the grandmother. She was actually one of the survivors of the massacre against black people, Afro-American people in Tulsa in Oklahoma in 1921. So this Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone is partly playing in Oklahoma. O is also for Ontario. Have you read any books which play in the Canadian province of Ontario? And again, I can say, yes, I did. I read Bellevue Square by Michael Redhill, which is a book that won the Scotiabank Giller Prize Award in 2017, I think. And it's a novel about a woman who is slowly going insane. She's married to a policeman, and she believes that there's a doppelganger copy of her living in the same area. It's called Kensington Market in Toronto, Ontario, where she lives. And people get killed, but it shows, it's a story of someone who gets slowly, who loses her mind slowly. That is read Bellevue Square by Michael Redhill. But I also read beautiful thrillers and crime novels by one of my favorite crime authors, Giles Blunt. He is the creator of John Cardinal and Lise Delorme, actually. Lise with an E. Playing in a fictitious town called Algonquin Bay, north of 400 miles, I think, or kilometers north of Toronto. And novels like 40 Words of Sorrow or The Black Fly Season, to name just two of them. I think there are 5 in total. And there must be also a TV series that I never saw. I would love to see that done by Canadian television by John Cardinal and Lise Delorme. So there were 3 books. But I read more Giles Blunt. I think I have read 3 or 4 of his 5 or 6 novels, I'm sorry. Was that everything? That seems to have been everything. I did a couple of prompts, and this video is already 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. So I have to come to an end here. And Jim said we can make our own prompts. We can add our own prompts that have something to do with O. And you know that I like to sing sometimes in my videos. So the prompt that I add here is, please sing a song that starts, where the title starts with an O. And the song that I found is a very old song from a time that when I was a little child. I didn't hear that song. I heard it later on when I was a teen. This goes like that. When I'm so tired of crying, but I'm out on the road again. I'm on the road again. When I'm so tired of crying, but I'm out on the road again. I'm on the road again. I ain't got no woman just to call my special friend. That was Cannot Heat, and the song's called On the Road Again. Cannot Heat is a band that played in Woodstock. I saw the movie in the 70s. Woodstock was in 1969. Thanks very much. That was the O tag. I hope that you do it too. Please sing a song that starts with an O. And thanks very much for watching this video. I hope that you stay tuned to my beautiful channel, but most of all, I hope that you stay safe. Thank you very much and bye-bye.